You see them. Calm. Thoughtful. Deep. They seem to understand everything. People come to them for advice. For clarity. For truth. They speak gently. They think deeply. They notice what others miss. And yet, something feels hidden. Because behind that quiet intelligence, there is a different story. A heavier one. The INFJ mind is powerful. But it is also overwhelmed. Sharp. But often tired. Wise. But quietly struggling. This is not obvious from the outside. But inside, it is constant. In this video, we explore 12 reasons why the INFJ mind struggles, even though it is so smart. Stay until the end. Some of these may feel uncomfortably accurate. 1. Constant overthinking. The INFJ mind rarely rests. Even in quiet moments, something is moving beneath the surface. Thoughts move in layers. One idea leads to another. Then another. It is not random. It is structured. Almost architectural. They do not just think. They analyze. They look for patterns. For meaning. For hidden signals. Every word. Every look. Every silence. Nothing feels neutral. Everything feels like it carries intent. A simple conversation becomes a long mental replay. Not because they want it to, but because their mind keeps searching for accuracy. What did they mean? Was there something beneath the tone? Did I say the right thing? Was my response aligned with what they needed? Could I have done better? Could I have been clearer? Kinder. More precise. This level of awareness is powerful. It gives them emotional intelligence. It allows them to read between lines. To sense what others miss. This is why INFJ personality types are often described as deeply intuitive, highly perceptive, quietly insightful. But it also creates exhaustion. Because the mind never stops scanning. Even when nothing is happening, it prepares for something. Never stops refining. Even small details are revisited and adjusted internally. Never stops questioning. Even certainty feels temporary. Over time, this becomes heavy. Not dramatic. Not visible. But constant. Like background noise that never turns off. This is one of the hidden struggles of INFJs. A mind that is always on, even when it longs for stillness. 2. Emotional absorption. INFJs do not just notice emotions. They absorb them. Emotion does not stay external. It becomes internal. They walk into a room and feel the atmosphere instantly. No one has to say anything. The energy is enough. If someone is anxious, they feel it. It sits in their chest. If someone is hurting, they carry it. Even if the person hides it well. This makes them deeply empathetic. Often described as empaths. Able to connect without words. Able to understand without explanation. This is a core strength of the INFJ personality. But it also blurs boundaries. Where do others end, and where do they begin? That line becomes unclear. They struggle to separate their emotions from others. They may feel heavy, without knowing why. They may feel drained, after simple interactions. So even when nothing is wrong in their own life, there is still emotional weight. Still tension. Still fatigue. They can still feel overwhelmed. Because they are carrying emotions that were never theirs. And because they rarely express this, it builds silently. This is why INFJs often need solitude. Not to escape people, but to return to themselves. To clear what does not belong to them. To feel their own emotional baseline again. 3. Perfectionism in silence. INFJs often set very high standards. Not for attention. Not for recognition. But for alignment. They want things to feel right. But they rarely talk about it. Their expectations stay internal, hidden beneath calm behavior. They want to do things right. Not just correct, but meaningful. They replay decisions. They refine ideas. They adjust small details no one else notices. They want their words to matter. Every sentence feels like it should carry intention. Every action feels like it should reflect values. This quiet perfectionism creates pressure. Because there is no clear endpoint. No moment where it feels enough. Because nothing feels finished. There is always one more layer to refine. Nothing feels complete enough. Even when others are satisfied. Even when results are objectively good. And even when they succeed. Even when they are praised. They still feel like they could have done more. Could have gone deeper. Could have expressed it better. This creates a quiet dissatisfaction. Not loud. Not obvious. But persistent. A feeling of almost. A feeling of not fully reaching what they imagined. One that others rarely notice. Because from the outside, everything looks fine. But internally, the standard keeps moving. 4. Difficulty being understood. INFJs think deeply. But depth is not always easy to translate. They do not always express everything they feel. Not because they cannot, but because it feels too complex to simplify. Their thoughts are layered. Emotional. Logical. Symbolic. All at once. Their thoughts are complex. Layered. Abstract. Often shaped by intuition rather than linear explanation. So when they try to explain, it can feel incomplete. Like translating something multidimensional into a flat sentence. Something always gets lost. And when others misunderstand them, it does not feel small. It feels significant. Even if they do not react outwardly. It hurts more than they show. Because they spend so much time understanding others. They listen carefully. They observe deeply. They remember details. They adjust their communication to fit others. They hope someone will understand them too. Not perfectly, but sincerely. But that rarely happens. Not because people do not care, but because the depth is hard to access. So they keep more inside. They simplify. They filter. They share only what feels safe. And over time, that silence grows. It becomes a habit, then a pattern, then a quiet distance between them and others. This is why INFJs often feel alone, even when surrounded by people. 5. Chronic mental fatigue. A constantly active mind leads to fatigue. Not physical first. Mental first. Then emotional. Then physical. INFJs are always processing, even when they appear still. Patterns. Emotions. Possibilities. Everything is being organized internally. They are rarely present in just one moment. The present is connected to the past and extended into the future. They are thinking about what was, revisiting conversations, reanalyzing outcomes, and what could be, imagining scenarios, predicting possibilities. At the same time, this creates mental overload. Too many tabs open at once. Too many threads running in parallel. Even if they appear calm on the outside, even if their voice is steady, even if their posture is relaxed, inside, there is movement, continuous movement. Inside, they are tired, not from doing too much physically, but from thinking too much internally. Deeply tired. The kind of tired that sleep does not fully fix. The kind that requires silence, space, and disconnection from constant input. This is one of the lesser-known INFJ struggles. Fatigue that is invisible, but deeply felt. 6. Idealism versus reality conflict. INFJs often see how things could be. Not in a vague way. In a very clear way. They imagine better systems. More fair. More thoughtful. They imagine better relationships. More honest. More connected. Better outcomes. More aligned with purpose. They believe in meaning. Not surface level, but depth. In depth. In purpose. In things that matter beyond appearance. But reality often falls short. Not occasionally, but repeatedly. People act selfishly, even when they know better. Situations feel shallow, focused on appearance rather than truth. And the world does not always align with their inner vision. There is a gap between what is and what could be. This creates frustration. Not explosive, but steady. A quiet disappointment that returns again and again. Because they see the potential, but cannot always reach it. They try to influence, to guide, to improve. But they also see limitations. And that tension stays with them. This is the INFJ paradox. Seeing beauty in possibility, while living in imperfection. and learning, slowly, how to exist between both. 7. Fear of vulnerability. INFJs are emotionally deep, but that depth is not light. It is intense, layered, sometimes overwhelming. They do not open up easily, not because they are distant, but because they are careful. They have learned that not everyone understands depth. Not everyone handles honesty with care. So they pause. They observe. They wait. Not because they do not want to connect, but because they want to feel safe first. They feel everything strongly. A small rejection can echo loudly inside them. A careless word can stay longer than it should. So vulnerability is not simple. It feels like standing without protection. Fully seen. Fully exposed. They know what that costs. So they protect themselves. Quietly. Gently. They listen more than they speak. Because listening feels safer. They support more than they share. Because giving feels controlled. They become the calm presence for others, while keeping their own storms hidden. And while this keeps them safe, it also creates distance. Because real connection requires openness. And openness requires risk. So they stay guarded. Not closed, but layered. And over time, they begin to feel unseen, even when surrounded by people. Because no one truly knows what they hold inside. 8. People-pleasing tendencies. INFJs value harmony, not in a shallow way, but in a deep, emotional sense. They want peace, clarity, balance between people. They can sense tension quickly, even when no one says a word. A shift in tone, a pause in conversation, a subtle discomfort. They feel it, and they respond to it. They want people to feel comfortable, understood, accepted. So they adjust. Not always consciously. It just happens. They soften their opinions. They reshape their words. They choose silence over conflict. They hide their discomfort, even when it matters. They say yes, even when they feel no. Because saying no can disrupt harmony, and disruption feels heavy to them. But this creates something else. Something quieter. Internal conflict. Because their outer actions begin to drift away from their inner truth. They smile when they feel drained. They agree when they feel uncertain. They give when they need rest. And this gap grows. Slowly. Silently. Until they feel disconnected from themselves. Over time, this leads to resentment. Not loud anger, but a quiet frustration. A feeling of being stretched too far. But they do not direct it at others. They turn it inward. They question themselves. Why did I say yes? Why didn't I speak up? Why do I keep doing this? And this loop continues. Because breaking it means facing discomfort. And discomfort feels like conflict. And conflict feels like loss of harmony. So they remain in the pattern, even when it costs them. 9. Difficulty letting go. INFJs hold on to meaning, not just memories. Meaning. They do not experience moments as simple events. They experience them as emotional imprints. Each interaction carries depth. Each memory holds layers. They remember how things felt. The tone of a voice. The energy in a room. The silence between words. What was said. And what was left unsaid. What was implied. And what was felt beneath the surface. So when something ends, it does not simply disappear. It lingers. Not as a clear picture, but as a feeling. And feelings are harder to release. They revisit moments. Not to suffer, but to understand. To find closure. To make sense of what happened. They analyze it. Turn it over in their mind. Look at it from different angles. And in doing so, they feel it again. Not once, but many times. This makes closure difficult. Because closure requires letting go. And letting go feels like losing meaning. So they hold on. Even when they want to move forward. Even when they know it is time. A part of them still searches for resolution. For clarity. For peace. And until they find it, the memory stays active. Quiet. But present. 10. Isolation by design. INFJs need time alone. Not as an escape, but as a necessity. Alone time helps them reset. To step away from noise. From emotion. From constant input. They process everything internally. Thoughts. Feelings. experiences. And without space, that process becomes overwhelming. So they withdraw. They create distance. To breathe, to think, to recover. In solitude, they feel clear, grounded, balanced again. But too much isolation creates something else. Distance. Not just from others, but from connection itself. They withdraw to protect their energy. But in doing so, they slowly disconnect. Messages go unanswered. Plans get postponed. Conversations become shorter. And the longer they stay in that space, the harder it becomes to return. Because re-entering social energy feels intense again. Heavy again. They want connection. Deep connection. Real conversations. Meaningful bonds. But they also fear the cost of it. The emotional effort. The energy exchange. The unpredictability. So they hesitate. They stay in between. Close enough to want connection. Far enough to avoid overwhelm. Alone, but not fully by choice. It becomes a quiet pattern. One that feels safe, but also limiting. 11. Internal identity conflict. INFJs are constantly evolving. Growth is natural to them. Reflection is constant. They question who they are. Not once, but repeatedly. Across different stages of life. They think about what they believe. What feels true. What feels aligned. They question what they want. Not just on the surface, but deeply. What kind of life feels meaningful? What kind of path feels right? They adapt to others. Subtly. They adjust their tone, their energy, their presence, to match the environment, to maintain connection, to create comfort. And they reflect deeply on everything, on their reactions, their choices, their patterns. But this creates confusion. Because when you are always adapting, it becomes harder to see what is fixed. Their identity feels fluid, not solid, not fully defined. They can be different versions of themselves in different spaces. And all of them feel real. But none of them feel complete. So they wonder, is this really me? Or is this who I became for others? Is this my voice? Or a reflection of what was needed? This internal questioning does not stop. It continues quietly, in the background. And it can feel unstable. Even when everything looks stable from the outside, they appear composed, certain, grounded. But inside, there is movement, constant evaluation, constant refinement. They are searching for alignment, not perfection, but truth. And until that feels clear, the question remains open. 12. The pressure of being the strong one. People rely on INFJs. They trust their wisdom, their calm presence, their emotional insight. So INFJs become the support system, the listener, the guide, but rarely the one being supported. They feel like they have to stay strong, composed, understanding, even when they are struggling. So they carry everything quietly. And over time, that weight builds. Without release. Without acknowledgement. And yet, they keep going. Because that is who they are. Calm on the outside. Complex on the inside. If you see yourself in this, you are not alone. The INFJ mind is powerful. But it is not meant to carry everything alone. Understanding this is the first step. Not to change who you are, but to take better care of your mind. Because strength is not just in understanding others. It is also in allowing yourself to be understood. And maybe, that is where the real balance begins.